katika orodha ya shughuli za bunge ni kuhusiana na kuongezwa kwa kipindi cha kuzingatia vyombo vya kisheria. Swala hili ama hoja hii itakuwa inawakilishwa na Mheshimiwa Samuel Chepkonga kutoka Ainabkoi. Na nikufahamishe tu ya kwamba kwa mujibu wa masharti ya kifungu cha 15(3) cha sheria ya hati za sheria ya mwaka 2013 inayohusiana na kuongeza muda wa kushughulikia hati ya kisheria na bunge hili linaazimia kuongeza muda wa kuzingatiwa kwa hati za kisheria zifuatazo kwa muda wa siku 21. Nikufahamisha kwamba mojawapo ni kuhusiana na kanuni za bodi ya kitaifa na nafaka na mazao, hifadhi ya kimkakati ya taifa mwaka 2023 ambayo iliwekwa kwenye notisi ya kisheria nambari 25 ya mwaka 2023 kuanzia tarehe 1 Agosti, yani kuanzia hapo jana. Kwingineko pia kuna kuongezwa kwa muda kwa kanuni za vyuo vikuu mwaka 2023. Hii ni notisi ya kisheria nambari 56 mwaka 2023 ambayo itakuwa inaanza kuongezwa muda wake tarehe 17 mwezi huu wa Agosti mwaka huu 2023. Na kanuni nyingine ni kuhusiana na kanuni za upatikanaji wa taarifa mwaka 2023 ambayo vile iliwekwa kwenye notisi ya kisheria nambari 57 ya mwaka 2023. Itakuwa inaongezwa kuanzia tarehe 17 Agosti mwaka huu. Kwenye orodha ya shughuli, msikilizaji, pia kuna mswada wa marekebisho ya pensheni, mswada nambari 44 wa mwaka wa 2022 ambao uliwakilishwa bungeni na Mheshimiwa Didmas Baraza kutoka eneo bunge la Kimilili, na mswada huu utakuwa unasomwa kwa mara ya pili. Lengo kuu la mswada huu ni kurekebisha sheria ya pensheni ya bunge sura ya 196, na hii inapendekeza kuongeza kiasi cha pensheni kwa wabunge wa zamani ama wale ambao tayari walishahudumu muhula wao na wakastaafu na walihudumu kati ya tarehe 1 Julai mwaka 1984 hadi tarehe 1 Januari mwaka 2001 kutoka kiwango cha chini cha shilingi 1,100 za Kenya. Kwenye orodha nyingine mchana wa leo ama alasiri ya leo ni kuhusiana na marekebisho ya mswada wa kitaifa wa mamlaka ya ujenzi nambari 59 wa mwaka 2022 uliotengenezwa na Mheshimiwa David Gakari wa Nakuru mjini Mashariki, ambao utakuwa unasomwa kwa mara ya pili. Nikufahamisha ya kwamba mswada huu unalenga marekebisho hayo ambayo yatakuwa yanatafuta kutoa utambulizi kwa wanawake, vijana na vile naona kwamba tunapozidi kusonga mbele, spika wa bunge hili la kitaifa Mheshimiwa Daktari Moses Masika Wetangula anaingia katika bunge, na ilivyo desturi akisha ingia atakuwa anaongoza bunge hili katika maombi, na baada ya hapo ikiwa akidi imeshafikia, vikao vitakuwa vinaanza rasmi moja kwa moja. Na ikiwa naomba nikurejeshe katika majengo ya bunge moja kwa moja.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umetuonya nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tunakuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Sergeant, ring the bell. Okay, we have a quorum. Well done today. You have been exemplary. Clerk.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Members, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I've got 2 short communications to make. The first one concerns prioritization of bills before committees. Honorable members, as you recall, on Tuesday, 25th July 2023, I did notify the House on the status of business, especially legislative proposals and bills published and awaiting consideration by committees and the House. In my communication, I indicated that at least 40 bills by individual members had been published for consideration by the House. In addition, there are 268 legislative proposals that have been sponsored by members of this House, of which 65 are undergoing pre-publication scrutiny by various committees. Honorable members, take the nearest seats. Nearest seats. Dr. Nyikal doesn't know what nearest means. Honorable members, the House Business Committee took cognizance that understanding Order 40, which provides for the sequence of proceedings in 1 week, individual member bills are only allocated a maximum of 3 hours, which is very little time compared to the volume of bills that are from individual members. Consequently, the House Business Committee resolved to allocate time on Wednesday afternoons for the consideration of individual members' bills. The committee also resolved from time to time to request the House to either approve to hold morning sittings on Thursdays or extend its sittings to create more time for consideration of business. As you may have noticed, honorable members, from the order paper for the afternoon sitting of Wednesday, 26th July 2023, and on today's order paper, several individual members' bills have been slotted for second reading. This practice will continue for the rest of this session as the House Business Committee endeavors to facilitate members to effectively discharge their constitutional mandate. Honorable members, it is important for committees to appreciate that it is the desire of every member to have a bill published in their name, expeditiously considered and passed by the House. However, unless all committees prioritize the consideration of bills, the efforts of the House Business Committee to create time for consideration of individual members' bills in the House will be in vain. In this regard, committees are expected to prioritize the consideration of bills and legislative proposals. I urge all committees to prioritize the consideration of bills and legislative proposals undergoing pre-publication scrutiny. For greater certainty, I remind committees that Standing Order 1147 requires a committee to which a legislative proposal is committed to submit a report within 30 days. Honorable members, should it be brought to my attention that any committee has inordinately delayed undertaking pre-publication scrutiny of legislative proposals before them, I'll cause the House Business Committee to follow the precedent set in 2019 to have such proposals published as bills without any further recourse to the relevant committees. To this end, honorable members, I direct all committees to consider and conclude all legislative proposals before them and to submit their reports as soon as possible. Given the timelines for the consideration has lapsed on many bills, and going forward, may I remind committee chairpersons that committees are under obligation to conclude their business in 30 days every time we refer to them. Further, all committees that have bills pending publication participation are directed to expedite the process of consideration and table reports on the bills within timelines spelled out in Standing Order 127-4 in order to facilitate prioritization of bills for second reading. Honourable members, as the House creates time for individual members' bills, the onus is also on the members to avail themselves in the House and prosecute their respective business once scheduled. I hasten to state, honourable members, that whenever a sponsor of a bill or other business listed in the order paper is absent from the House without permission from the Speaker, such business shall stand deferred and will not be prioritized again. I say these, honourable members, because last week 10 motions listed on the order paper were called out, and none of the 10 sponsors of those motions was in the House. This wastes our House time, and I urge all the members, starting with the leadership, majority, minority, to encourage our members who have business before the House to ensure that by the time the House starts, you are in the House. Equally important, if your matter is listed 10 down the line, you don't have to hang out there thinking that will come later. Other business ahead of it may collapse and it may be reached within the shortest time possible for the business to be transacted. The second communication, honorable members. Members at the bar, take the nearest seats. Honourable members, the second communication is guidance on the consideration of the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 35 of 2023. Honourable members, as you are aware, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 35 of 2023, was read a first time on 26 July 2023. The bill was thereafter committed to the relevant committees for publication, participation in accordance with the requirements of Article 118 of the Constitution and Standing Order 127. Subsequently, the Clerk of the National Assembly placed an advertisement in the print media inviting the public and stakeholders to submit memoranda on the bill in accordance with the requirements of public participation. Honorable members, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill 2023 seeks to amend various acts of Parliament relating to anti-money laundering and combating of terrorism financing and financing of proliferation of weapons. In particular, the bill seeks to amend 17 acts of Parliament, and in this regard I wish to notify the House that the proposed amendments to the following acts of Parliament as contained in the bill have since been referred to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs for consideration. 1. The Extradition, Contiguous and Foreign Countries Act, Cap 76. Contiguous means countries that share a common boundary with Kenya, like Somalia, Ethiopia, Uganda, South Sudan, and so on. The Extradition, Commonwealth Countries Act, Cap 77. 3. The State Corporations Act, Cap 446. 4. The Anti-Corruption and Ethics and Economic Crimes Act number 3 of 2003. 5. The Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act 209, number 9 of 209. 6. The National Police Service Act 2011, Act number 11A of 2011. 7. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2011, Act number 22 of 2011. 8. The Mutual Legal Assistance Act 2011, Act number 36 of 2011. 9. The Prevention of Terrorism Act 2012, Act number 30 of 2012, and the Companies Act 2015, Act number 17 of 2015. Further, the proposed amendments to the following acts of Parliament as contained in the bill have also since been referred to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for consideration. 1. The Capital Markets Act, Cap 485A. The Insurance Act, Cap 487. The Banking Act, Cap 488. The Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491. The Microfinance Act 2006, Act number 19 of 2006. The National Payment System Act 2011, Act number 39 of 2011, and the Limited Liability Partnership Act, Act number 42 of 2011. Honorable members, from the foregoing, the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs shall be the lead committee for purposes of conducting public participation. In this regard, the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning is required to conduct public participation processes and submit its report to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs for consolidation. Honorable members, as you are aware, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill 2023 contains proposed amendments to seek to provide for disclosure of information to help in combating money laundering, terrorism financing, and financing of proliferation of weapons activities. In considering the bill, the committees bear in mind the requirements of Article 24 of the Constitution on the limitation of rights and the various court decisions that have outlined the manner of application of the Bill of Rights. Members, this is very important because, as you know, previously the Law Society already went to court and struck out some provisions that sought to amend the Advocates Act. And you know that the Constitution requires that if you want to limit any provision of the Bill of Rights, you must clearly state the rights being limited and why. So the committees and the members of the committees must take these very important provisions in mind. Honorable members, may I implore the two committees to prioritize the consideration of the bill and report to the House soonest, given that the bill is also informed by various international obligations which require the country to have in place a robust legal framework to combat money laundering, financing of terrorism, and proliferation of weapons. The House must move expeditiously to conclude on the matter. The House is accordingly guided. Thank you. Next order. Yes, Majority Leader Deputy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to commend you, especially on the first issue of private members' bills. If you allow me, a lot of the time members prepare bills and they send them to committees, and they journey for 4 years. 4 years that bill is being tossed from one committee to the other. Eventually we go sign die and those bills are lost. If you recall, Honorable Speaker, when we started this session, there was a long list of bills that were being referred to which had died with sign die. But I want to commend you on the number of days you have given, such that a bill can, a lot of effort of members is wasted by delay at committee stage. Sometimes bills are referred to budget committee even when they don't necessarily have to go to the budget committee. And a lot of time is wasted and effort. And you're invited to go to Mombasa and you stay in Mombasa and you do a lot of resources for this country are being wasted by tossing one bill from the other, and time is wasted at that particular. I want to commend you, Honorable Speaker, on that ruling, and I hope chairmen of committees will expeditiously make sure that bills are fast-tracked. Secondly, on the issue of the money laundering bill, is an important thing for government, and I want to ask the chairs and especially the jailer and all committees that are involved to do their work and ensure that we have these laws in place within the shortest time. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Indeed, honorable members, particularly chairmen of committees or chairpersons of committees, the French say noblesse oblige. Nobility carries responsibility.
Yes.
Committees are not going to be packing bays for members' businesses or any business of the House. Any member whose matter is forwarded to a committee for consideration, you are at liberty after 30 days to communicate with the office of the Speaker that the committee has been unable to facilitate the transaction of your matter and will bypass the committee and proceed with the processing of your matter. Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Just before that, clerk, and Owen Bayer and your counterpart, Honorable Pio and I, you must also bear responsibility in ensuring that committees do their work. I hope that within your internal mechanisms, you have a reporting procedure on how committees are dispensing the business that we send to them, so that we don't become a house of lamentations, but a house of action. Clerk.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, we don't have papers for today. We don't have papers for today.
You have no papers today. Chairperson, Public Petitions Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay, Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 2nd August 2023. Report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of the following petitions. Public petition number 1 of 2022 by the Honorable Julius Kiplingtich Ruto, MP, regarding safeguarding the economic and social welfare of communities living next to forests, and public petition number 8 of 2022 by Pastor Ochieng Ondido regarding EACC investigation on West Kano irrigation scheme. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you, Honorable Mbai. Honorable Tande, is that the matter that you wanted to make an intervention?
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I brought a petition before this House a while back, and the Petitions Committee has submitted their report. But Honorable Speaker, on going through the report, I've established that the recommendations of the report does not agree with the prayers. that were made by the petitioners. For example, Honorable Speaker, one of the prayers which was laid before the House was that Parliament finds the CEO of Cyton Investment Management PLC as responsible for the management and secures a timely refund of investors' deposits money. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the report, the committee has rightfully observed that this gentleman called Dande was responsible for the mess and should actually be investigated. But Honorable Speaker, on their recommendation, they have failed to make this as a recommendation. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I find that the report does not help us and does not help the petitioners. The report looks like, something which is a cover-up. And Chairman, Honorable Speaker, I want you to find, understanding Order 1, that this report needs to be redrafted or redone so that it meets the expectations of the petitioners. Honorable Speaker, understanding Order 1, I believe you have the power to do this, and so that we can be able as a House to help Kenyans to find justice on this House. When Kenyans present petitions before this House, they do so with the hope and the faith that this House is the ultimate House that will give them justice. But if this House cannot give Kenyans justice, Honorable Speaker, then this House should just be disbanded, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I seek for your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Atande. Perhaps, yes, Honorable Yusuf of Kamkunji.
Thank you,
Ordinarily, we don't debate the reports of petitions when they come.
Mr. Speaker, I also have an issue with the petition.
Yes.
Twice I have brought a petition on behalf of Swahili enthusiasts for the formation of the National Council of Kiswahili.
I recall that.
Baraza hili. And twice it has died in the process because it was not taken forward by the respective committee. And the National Kiswahili Council was fully supported by this House. It's a very popular decision. It has been passed also by Cabinet. And I am lost for words because I don't know what else to do. If we have brought it twice here, in both occasions it was time barred because the respective petition committee, the committee dealing with it, did not take it forward in a timely manner. I was wondering what you would be advising in terms of saving that particular situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nimrod Mbai, what is the fate of the petition on the Kiswahili Commission?
Mr. Speaker, to be honest, I've not received the petition by Honorable City Yusuf, the member for Kamukunji, and I would want to commit that the moment you receive it, it will not die. This time round, it will see the light of the day, and you will get a report from the committee. Honorable Speaker, also to report or to answer on the concerns of Honorable the member who had brought in the petition about the Cyton investment. Honorable Speaker, we did our best, and today we are giving a notice for motion of the same petition so that the whole House can debate it. At that point, I think it will be open for every member to tell whether our recommendations are up to standard or are below the expectations. I would ask Honorable Atandi to hold his horses so that he allows me to table them for motion for debate of the petition. Then you'll have his opportunity to discuss the matter, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Member for Gatanga, Edward Muriel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to present before this House a notice of motion in support of the feeding program in our primary schools and junior secondary schools, supported by NGCDF, In that analogy, Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that Article 43(1)(f) of the Constitution, as read together with Article 53(1)(b), entitles every child to free, quality, and compulsory basic education. Cognizant of the fact that access to funding for education immensely contributes to the realization of universal access to basic education in the country. Appreciating that Section 48 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, Act 2015, establishes education bursary schemes for every constituency towards access to basic education. Noting that Section 48A of NGCDF Act further allows for affirmative action mechanism of allocating additional funds to cater for education, bursary schemes, and other teaching and learning related activities. Concerned that the NGCDF Act caps allocation to bursary schemes under the fund at not more than 35% of the total constituency allocation in a financial year, thereby limiting the number of cases that may be supported to access the basic education, and further concerned that the NGCDF board has only been approving bursary support for secondary and tertiary education and not primary schools and the recently created junior secondary schools. Cognizant of the fact that the failing to extend bursaries to primary and junior secondary schools on the assumptions that the two levels of education are free is a misnomer, since the government capitation to pupil is inadequate to cater for the mandatory materials required for competency-based curriculum, that's CBC, thereby affecting the pupils whose parents are unable to meet the attendant costs. Deeply concerned, Mr. Speaker, that continued exclusion of the allocation of bursary to primary and junior secondary schools violates Article 27 of the Constitution and slows down the attainment of universal basic education in Kenya. Now, therefore, Mr. Speaker, this House resolved that 1, the educational bursary scheme under Section 48 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF Act 2015, be extended to support learners in primary and junior secondary school to cater for competency-based curriculum, that is CBC. 2, pursuant to Section 48A of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, the NGCDF board in each constituency approves additional allocation to the education bursary scheme in order to support teaching and learning related activities associated with the CBC education, including, Mr. Speaker, sir, school feeding programs. And number 3, the government revises the capitation per student in primary schools from the current 1,420 per student per year to 7,760, being the minimum optimal capitation factoring the new CBC education system and the prevailing high costs of living. Signed by Honorable Wakili Edward Moreu, MP Gatanga constituency, on the 2nd August, the year of our Lord, 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, sorry to interrupt the flow of the order of business, but I'm just curious. I'm sure you can use standing order number 1 to indulge me. Mr. Speaker, a while back, the Honorable Samuel Atandi raised some very, very serious issues here. And in fact, this house is a house of records. The Honorable Tande, in his submissions, made comments to the effect that a report that has been tabled before this house this afternoon is a cover-up.
I heard him.
Yes. And he was saying so on the basis that the issues raised in the petition, which is in question, have not been addressed conclusively by the committee in question. Honorable Speaker, this morning I had a chance to discuss with the chair of the committee on petitions, and actually we agreed that he needs to be given time to run the committee. But I am concerned that if we are to leave that matter that has been raised by Honorable Tandi just like that, and somehow hope that it will be addressed at the time of the debate on the petition on the committee's report, we might be doing a lot of injustice, not only to this House in terms of its reputation, but also to the petitioners. It's an issue that requires your pronouncement, and more so on what we need to do, therefore. If, for instance, a petition comes before this House, and it goes to the Committee on Public Petitions, and the committee, of course, in its wisdom, makes consideration and brings a report before this House, and it is debated, is there room really for this House at the plenary stage to make any amendments to such a report without the full knowledge and benefit of interacting with the petitioners and indeed the petition itself? So I would want you to make a ruling on those two aspects. One, on the grave matter which has been raised by Honorable Tandi, which is in the record, it's in the Hansard, that a report of a committee of this House is a cover-up. We would want to know the nature of this cover-up. That has to be made very clear. I would have wanted you to perhaps indulge Honorable Tandi to explain further how the committee is getting involved in doing cover-ups. How would a committee of parliament undertake cover-ups on a matter as serious as a petition brought before it by a member of the public, Mr. Speaker? It's an issue we need to dispense with before we can proceed to the next order.
By
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would want to say this. When the committee receives any petition, there is the petitioner and there is the other stakeholders involved in the petition. Maybe the witnesses or the person the petitioner is accusing. Mr. Speaker, even in the courts of law, you can take a case before a judge, and a judge may not give a ruling which does not satisfy you. That does not give you the reason or an opportunity to say that was a cover-up. Mr. Speaker, we listened to several shareholders, or to several shareholders. We listened to several witnesses about that the petition the honourable member is referring to, and in the wisdom of the committee, we gave the recommendations we gave. And Mr. Speaker, if the member had a predetermined way in which he wanted the committee to recommend, I think it's also unfair to the committee, because the committee has members who are elected and have minds and brains, and they listened to all the stakeholders involved and came up with the decision. So, Mr. Speaker, I find the word cover-up so heavy for that, because how it seems the member had a determined way in which he wanted the report to come out, and maybe the committee has recommended otherwise. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to request Honorable Atandi to wait to hold his horses, because we are going now to lay the same report for debate by the House. The House by then will make a decision, or will decide whether there was a cover-up of the issues involved, or whether the committee did a good job. But it is very unfair, Mr. Speaker, to say there is cover-up because the committee has not recommended in your predetermined manner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Atande and the Minority Leader, the committee has elected under Standing Order 208 SC and 227 2A to not only bring a report but also move the House to debate the findings of the committee. That gives you an opportunity to bring material that you think the committee has overlooked or left out to validate your assertions. So we can allow the chair to give the notice of motion in furtherance of the prosecution of your petition, so that we'll allocate it in House Business Committee to have time to be debated. And if you feel dissatisfied, you will be advised to do what is necessary within the standing orders and the law. You also are at liberty, besides the petition process, to avail material available to you of fraudulent acts committed by the people you allege to have committed to the administration of justice systems of the country, DCI, ESCC, who can take up the matter notwithstanding the fact that there's a petition here. Go ahead and give your notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a notice of motion, and I would request for your indulgence before I go ahead with it, Mr. Speaker, to thank you and out of your wisdom in the manner in which you corrected, or let me put it this way, in the fatherly way you reprimanded my committee yesterday. We took it positively. We are going to improve on the issues, Mr. Speaker, and I got satisfied that you are fit to hold that seat, because if it was by a rogue person, Mr. Speaker, we would have been thrown under the bus, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, I would also want to appreciate my elder brothers, the Honorable Opio and I, and the Honorable Ishungwa, for being lenient to my committee and myself with the young political career I have, Mr. Speaker. It would have been very dangerous for me moving ahead. So thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would not want to give excuses before the House. I would want to respond through output, through action, processing petitions within time and giving reports within time. Mr. Speaker, in relation to absence, this is my seat from today. Anytime you enter the room and you don't find me seated here, Mr. Speaker, just know either I'm out of the country or I'm admitted in an hospital somewhere. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that. Now, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Nguna adds a third reason for you not being there, that you'll probably be boxing somebody. Go ahead. I believe it's with a light touch. Go ahead and give your notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give a notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Public Petition Committee on its consideration of a public petition number 7 of 2022 regarding probable loss of investments in certain high-yield solutions platform, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 14th May 2023. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mbai. Well done. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
We honorable members will start with statements. Honorable Mukunji John of Manyata. It's important to acknowledge that the first person to request to make a statement on what you're about to make was the Honorable Mother Wangari of Gilgil. She's not here, and you may proceed to make your statement, which is identical to what she wanted.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to lay a general statement on the biometric data collection by WorldCoin. What? I'm told the mic is not working.
Okay. Yeah, move to the next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 43, Section 1, I wish to make a statement on the ongoing biometric data collection by WorldCoin. Honorable Speaker, WorldCoin, a blockchain company, recently launched their iris for tokens in Kenya, offering free cryptocurrency tokens on participants upon registration and scanning of their irises in various locations in Nairobi, including the Kenya International Conference Center, KICC. Honorable Speaker, whereas the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner issued a cautionary statement to Kenyans regarding the ongoing biometric data collection by this company, the registration process has peaked, causing concern on the purpose of the data collection. There are fears that the data may be used for purposes other than the declared intent by the blockchain company. In addition, the USA banned the WorldCoin from collecting data from its citizens, despite the founder of WorldCoin, Honorable Speaker, Sam Altam, being a US citizen. Honorable Speaker, the Office of the Data Protection Commission is mandated by law to register all data controllers and processors collecting personal data for the provision of financial services. With the world embracing artificial intelligence, the biometric data collected poses a risk on the protection and privacy of the participants if not monitored. In addition, there have been recent cases of cyber attacks in the country, thereby posing greater risk in the management of the data. This data collection exercise is, in my own opinion, a threat to the national security. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Interior and Coordination of National Government, and the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, through the Leader of Majority, on the following issue, Honorable Speaker. Number one, given that the Ministry of Interior and the Data Commissioner has cast doubt on the safety of the data collection by WorldCoin, could the ministry provide the steps that the government is taking to ensure control of data access, collection, and storage, especially by foreign entities? Number two, Honorable Speaker, who authorized the biometric data collection by WorldCoin, and were the correct procedures followed, Honorable Speaker? Number three, Honorable Speaker, what are the safety guarantees that the government is making to ensure that the data will be exclusively used for the intended purpose and the citizens will not suffer or get any loss? Number four, Honorable Speaker, has the government established the ultimate objective of this exercise? For what purpose will the data collected be used? Honorable Speaker, were there prior public participation to inform the public of the risk involved in the exercise? Honorable Speaker, number six, what is the source of the money being paid to participants and who stands to benefit from the exercise, Honorable Speaker? And Honorable Speaker, I know members who have passed through Kenya KICC, especially yesterday, saw the big line of young people that was there when the young people were going to collect the 7,000 said to be collected, to get collected when you give your biodata. And Honorable Speaker, I'm raising this as the newly elected chairman, Kenya Young Parliamentarian, because many young people are suffering from the issue of conmanship, and this country requires to step up its game on those issues, Honorable Speaker. The issue of selling of data, that includes the data of Facebook, Twitter, can be used and can be used to even do what we call identity theft and have people lose their finances and everything. Honorable Speaker, I seek to beg a statement, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, I also want to recognize while Mother Wangari was part of this statement, also Wakili Maina, Njeri Maina, was also an interested party in this. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I wish to request you to give us some minutes. Thank you.
Minority Leader on the same issue. Go ahead.
Usually I don't like interrupting. Mr. Speaker, the issue I'm rising to on the issue raised by the Honorable Chairperson of the Young Parliamentarians. Mr. Speaker, I get it. Oh, I'm being told he is yet to be elected. But all the same, I recognize him as such. Mr. Speaker, I get it from his statement that he's seeking responses from 2 cabinet secretaries, one in charge of ICT and one in charge of Interior. But this House must take notice, if it was court, would say judicial notice, of what has just transpired in the last 1 day or so about the same subject matter, which is extremely serious, if you ask me. It's a matter that cannot be wished away, because it actually has the capacity or the potential to endanger not only the security of this country, but also the future of young Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, a while back, I think 1 day ago, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of ICT was reported as having said that there is no law that WorldCoin has violated by doing what they are currently doing in Kenya, collecting data from Kenyans without permission from any authority. 2, today, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior has been reported as saying that the actions by WorldCoin are questionable, and therefore investigations are being undertaken. So therefore, if we come here again and ask for responses from the 2 cabinet secretaries who appear to be at cross purposes, speaking at cross purposes, to be having different positions on this single issue, which is of greatest concern to Kenyans, then what are we doing? In my view, this is an issue that therefore doesn't require any further statement from either of those 2 cabinet secretaries. As a House, we just need to undertake a very thorough and expeditious investigation, and summon everybody else who could be responsible or be involved in these nefarious activities. Mr. Speaker, I need your direction, because if we take the line we are being pushed to take of seeking for some statements or answers from 2 cabinet secretaries who have already differed, they have already fundamentally differed. The Honorable Professor Kindiki Kiture and the other one is called who? Oalo. Kindiki Kiture and Oalo have already differed on the matter of WorldCoin. So who do we believe? Who will the public believe? Is it Kindiki Kiture or Eliud Oalo? Who? Neither. If we shall believe neither of the 2, then it behoves the appointing authority of those 2 gentlemen to then give us a response to this issue. Because it's a very serious matter, Mr. Speaker. It can't just be treated in the light manner it is being treated. I'm on a point of order, Honorable Wakili. Just be patient. Yes, it is important that at every single moment, the country is made aware of the position of government, because government can only be one. Whether we recognize it or not, government can only be one. And there's no single day that a government positions can be contradictory. A government cannot have two contradictory positions on a single issue, and as serious as this one. So before the settlement, the question goes to whoever is supposed to go to, we need to be told what is the position of government, even before we attempt to do what we are trying to do now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to applaud the questioner, the chairman of the young parliamentarians. Mr. Speaker, sometimes I wish I was younger. But age has caught up with me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You squandered your youth. Moreo.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to raise a point of order, but basically just to also get the direction of this House on whether, Mr. Speaker, is the matter now mature for debate, so at least we either bring the two CS in Parliament, or we get a clarification. But therefore, Mr. Speaker, my concern here is that the fact that there is a company coming to this country to harvest data for young people with a promise for monetary support, to us, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think we are just exposing ourselves so much in terms of data harvest, because we don't even know what they're going to do. Number two, this is another story about the Bitcoin story, whereby you put in money, you get it into double, but you don't even know what value you're adding, because this is a pyramid scheme whereby you are promised heaven, but there's no value proposition on how our people are getting their money. I think the end game needs to be clear. We cannot be able to allow the students to come to this country and just do all manner of things. Mr. Speaker, sir, therefore, I seek for your guidance on whether this is a matter ready for debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Maclap, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've actually read this matter on social media, Mr. Speaker, and makes me believe that this country will become a country of surprises. Surprises of cartels of similar of Magargarian and Sagarchan, where people come in the form of a company, take data from our young people and pay 7,000. Mr. Speaker, I think we can leave the Cabinet Secretary for ICT, and I think Professor Kindiki was right to suspend. I would want also to seek you, Mr. Speaker, that the same Minister for Internal Security should now close all the borders to ensure that the Sarkarshans, the people called Worldcoin who came to take data from our people, are actually secured so that they don't run away from the country, because this is a very serious matter, Mr. Speaker, and I want to tell you, it may be even data to wipe out information on the portal, similar like the one that happened with the e-citizen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is now a security matter for Kenya, where the head of state in this matter should be involved, so that the borders of Kenya and the tax that come to take data for Kenyans are actually secured, so that they can be arrested to answer why they are taking. And I want to use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to call upon the young people of Kenya, including the young parliamentarians, to ensure that they don't again and again be taken cheaply and given money that you do not know who actually made the money and for what reasons. And I'm told, Mr. Speaker, when you are actually, your data is taken up to including your eye, one day you will also go and you will become blind. So the youth of Kenya, be cautious on what you take, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say it is a serious matter that requires our attention, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and let me thank the young parliamentarian for this statement. But let me be quick to say that what happened yesterday with the World Coin, which is closely associated with the cryptocurrency, which has been banned and is also having challenges around the world in terms of its credibility, was bad for this country because it exposed us in a very, very bad way that somebody, some company, some private person can walk in and take data and walk away with it without supervision or any authorities looking into it. Yet we have the Data Protection Department which should have actually taken care of this. As on whether we need the two ministers to come and answer in Parliament, Honourable Speaker, it is our responsibility to have them come here, whether they are differing or not. Government is one, but if they have different opinion on it, it's still very well placed that they come here and we hear their opinion on this. And still yet, Honourable Speaker, we have a right as the House to even make our own inquiry using our committees. And therefore, that should not in any way subside or reduce our effectiveness in dealing with the matter. It's a matter that requires urgent need, and it has to be dealt with. This exposes us as a country to a situation whereby we can be exploited without any defense. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Elachi Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise, and yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I went on Hansard really questioning how did we allow, who approved for the private company to be able, have we done public participation? Does it mean in financial matters, Mr. Speaker, we don't do public participation? Because in everything in this country, you realize, Mr. Speaker, we end up in court if we have not done public participation. So how did we, and who are these officers who approved? And this is not just at KICC. These guys are in all the hubs. At the hub in Karen, Mr. Speaker, we have a team there collecting. We have a team in every of the malls that you see, Mr. Speaker. Our young people were there and their data were being taken. Mr. Speaker, as much as we are talking of Shakahola, we will get another Shakahola in this one now. A Shakahola that we don't know, of young people who have no idea why they are being given money, who have no idea after they have received the money, the $65, you cannot withdraw, you cannot do anything with it, Mr. Speaker, yet already you have received. So, Mr. Speaker, if somebody has come to collect data in Kenya so that he can go around the world saying, I have numbers, people have joined in, the way we were doing Bitcoin and the rest, I think it is very wrong. And before anything, we want even the government to just tell us, who are these people? Who are they? And their names, where they've come from, the country, and why is it they are not doing it in their country, but they can come and do it in a third world country called Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last on that, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to congratulate my good brother, Honorable Gitonga Mukunji, as the newly elected interim KYPA chairperson. Young leadership must offer integrity as an irreducible minimum. Honorable Speaker, artificial intelligence is a complex issue. Artificial intelligence is a matter that we have not even canvassed as far as the terms of our data protection laws are concerned, Honorable Speaker. I do not understand how a company, a private entity, entered our sovereign soil, started harvesting the data of our young people, exploiting the economic situation, promising them heaven. Most of the young people are just saying it's just a scan on my iris. So I go, I get scanned, and I get some Kenya shillings 7,000. Honorable Speaker, we must be told by the CS, the two of them, why did they allow that? How much data has the private company, as I speak, harvested? We need to know, and they cannot leave this nation before we have that information. Honorable Speaker, we do not know what they will do with that information. They are on record, the company, saying that they do not even, or they cannot provide sufficient information as to how they are going to develop the human IDs that they claim they will develop. They are saying that they want to build a single world currency. But Mr. Speaker, And maybe a honorable member has gone to the extent of saying maybe our young people will just disappear, vanish into thin air, you know. Honorable Speaker, we must ensure we protect them because we are the people who have been elected to represent their interests, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Majority Leader, this matter must capture your attention. How on earth would a foreigner walk into our country and start mining data from our citizens without license or without recourse to any law or authority? I think as leader of majority in the House, you have a cardinal duty to ensure that the ministers responsible bring cogent explanation to this House, either through you or directly, as you may wish. But certainly members who have raised the issue are right, and this is a grave matter. I don't know if you want to say anything now. I saw long queues on social media at KICC. One would have thought they were going to the polling station to vote or something like that. Yes, majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And maybe to begin with, let me commit, I will indeed endeavor to get a statement from the two cabinet secretaries, because as has been indicated, I also read on social media what seemed like conflicting statements from the two cabinet secretaries, and therefore we need a very coherent and unified statement from the two cabinet secretaries, that the one in charge of Interior and ICT. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, it's true. It's sad that this matter came to light because it was in the middle of our city at KICC. More shocking, Honorable Speaker, is to ask, how does a foreigner not just come to collect data from the middle of our CBD, but from a government premise? Because KICC is a government installation. And therefore, whether this person is there legitimately or not, because we do not know, we wait to hear the answers from the government. But it concerns many people that this was being done in government premises. And even the cautionary statement being given by the data commissioner is a little bit too late, because they should have known before they set up camp at KICC. They definitely must have paid somebody to use KICC. The person who allowed them to use KICC should and ought to have verified whether they have been allowed by the data commissioner and they have all the requisite licenses and approvals. Because, Honorable Speaker, as Honorable Mukunji rightly says, in this day and age of artificial intelligence, it is possible that Kenyans will be barred from walking through some places. Probably next time you go to walk into a bank and your iris is has been used for things that you do not know, and you are denied access. Probably next time you want to travel, you may find your passport, or rather your image and your data has been used in criminal activities that you have no knowledge of. And even, Honorable Speaker, in this day and age of terrorism, Kenyans need to be cautious. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to use this opportunity to caution our young people, and not just young people, to caution Kenyans. Not everything that glitters is gold. And as difficult as circumstances around the economy may be, please don't rush for anything you hear that will give you an extra shilling. Some may be very enticing, but may be very dangerous for you. And I'm not saying this one is dangerous because I do not know, Honorable Speaker. We'll wait to hear from government, and I want to believe that especially the Ministry of Interior has taken all cautionary measures, including the National Intelligence Service, to establish who these people are. Because, Honorable Speaker, from the statement by Honorable Mukunji, the owner of this company, WorldCoin, Sam Altman, has been banned from collecting data in his home country in the US. So what is it that the Americans know about Sam Altman that the Kenyan state does not know? that we can allow him to come and harvest all manner of data from our people. And Honorable Speaker, it only came to light because it was at KICC. You can imagine how much more data they may have collected around the country. When the matter came up and it was in the news last night, I saw in WhatsApp groups in my constituency that in a village, a remote village called Lusigeti in Deya, they were there collecting data. And you can imagine if you entice people in our villages with a little money, how many people will volunteer to just give whatever amount of data they can give in exchange for a few shillings or a few thousand shillings. Honorable Speaker, government has a responsibility to protect its people, and its people includes their personal data. And our laws are very clear on that, Honorable Speaker, and therefore I'll push the CS hopefully by tomorrow, latest Tuesday, Honorable Speaker, to have a statement. If he cannot be able to come, I can get a statement that I can read out to the House latest by Tuesday. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader, given the gravity of the matter, I direct that you bring a preliminary statement to the House tomorrow at 2:30. What cautionary steps you are taking to protect even the data that this foreigner has mined from Kenyans ought to be in the safe custody of the data commissioner and not the foreigner. Next, Honorable Ekomas Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give a procedural statement on the progress on the consideration of the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, and request for extension of time by the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. Honorable Speaker, Standing Order number 127, subsection 4, requires that the chairperson of a committee to which a bill has been committed to report to the House within 30 days on its consideration of a bill that is committed to the committee. Honorable Speaker, the Conflict of Interest Bill was read a first time on the 6th of June 2023 and was committed to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. The bill seeks to repeal the Public Officers Ethics Act of 2003 and amend certain provisions of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act of 2002, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2011, the Leadership and Integrity Act of 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2015. Honorable Speaker, the bill also introduces a new paradigm and approach to public service integrity and ethical issues, which will affect all public and state officers, including the manner in which members of this House will conduct their affairs once the bill is enacted into law. It is for this reason that the committee is of the view that more time is required to look into the fundamental issues that are contained in the bill. For the record, Honorable Speaker, I wish to report that pursuant to Standing Order number 127.5, that the committee has already conducted public participation in accordance with Article 118, Sub-Article 1B of the Constitution as read together with Standing Order number 127.3 and Standing Order number 3A of our standing orders. However, a number of justice sector institutions and members of the public have not yet presented their views. Additionally, serious issues of concern were raised during public participation and stakeholder engagements on the bill requiring further deliberations. There is also a need to review and consider expert opinion as well as comparative studies from comparable jurisdictions. In view of the foregoing and bearing in mind the matters provided for in the bill, further considerations, consultations, and public participation is required to ensure that we come up with a robust legal framework and for public service integrity. Honorable Speaker, from the foregoing and pursuant to Standing Order number 127.5, the committee reports this progress on its consideration of the bill and requests the indulgence of the House through the House Business Committee for additional 90 days to conclude the deliberations and table a report. I wish to finally also restate our commitment to process the bill and ensure Kenya has a formidable legal regime to deal with issues of conflict of interest in public life. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mutusa, you have done the right thing, but 90 days luxury is not available to you. You are supposed to have finished your work in 30 days. I'll give you an additional 2 weeks to finish your work and bring the report. You cannot exhaust your 30 days and come here and ask triple the period required under the law. Yes, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I was engaging with Honorable Pukose, and that almost slipped through. Honorable Speaker, indeed, 90 days is a very long time.
Yes.
And maybe we should allow them at least 45 days maximum for them to be able to engage all the stakeholders. But 90 days, Honorable Speaker, that will take us into the next session next year.
Majority Leader.
Considering that there are also recess times.
The anti-money laundering bill that I spoke to earlier is amending about 15 different acts of parliament. And we have given it 30 days. Conflict of interest is not a complex matter. It's very straightforward. I'll give you 3 weeks. Yes, Mutuse. Give him the mic.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your consideration to extend the time. We indeed are obliged to go by your directions, and would consider, we wish you to consider that already the committee is considering many others, including the ones that you have given us. Number 2, we had a discussion in the committee, and we've tabled, we have already engaged some of the stakeholders, and some of them had indicated that the availability is beyond the 3 weeks that you have given us. So, Mr. Speaker, if we could have in between, you give us 30 days, an additional 30 days, so that we can also do justice to the bill.
Okay, you'll have 30 days, but make sure at the end of the 30 days you don't ask for any more extension. But I allowed you for coming back to the House to ask for extension. There are many committees whose business has lapsed the 30 days, and the chairpersons and chairmen don't bother to come back to the House. Majority Leader, will now go to question time. Oh, sorry. We have order number 8 and 9 to put questions. Before that, honorable members, we have the following schools in the public and speakers gallery. Baritabwa Primary School from Baringo North, Baringo. St. John Fisher's Mbuinjeru Secondary School from Runyenjes, Embu. Musukini Primary School from Mwingi Central, Kitui. Nyamondo Secondary School from South Mugirango, Kisii. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report on the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and the Global Parliamentarian Against Corruption meeting. Question to be put.
Honorable members, order. And now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House notes the report of the Kenya delegation to the Parliamentary Dialogue on the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, and Global Parliamentarians Against Corruption, GOPAC, annual general meeting held in Doha, Qatar, from 8th to 9th March 2023, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 26th April 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Report on a visit to semi-autonomous institution of the East African Community. Question to be put.
Order, honorable members. We now put the question at order number 9, which is that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on Regional Integration on its visit to semi-autonomous institutions of the East African Community in Arusha, Tanzania, from 2nd to 8th April 2023, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 6th June 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Is the Honorable Chepkonga in the House? Honorable Chepkonga, will call out order number 10. I'll give you 5 minutes to prosecute it so that we go to questions.
Order number 10, motion. Extension of period of consideration of certain statutory instruments.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the reason why I'm sitting here this afternoon is because the Honorable Mbai decided to take over my seat, and he has acquired it without giving notice. So, Mr. Speaker, so I've decided also to look for a seat somewhere else. This is not my ordinary place. But, Mr. Speaker, because he's not been coming to the House, I've ceded it to him. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 15, subsection 3 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013, this House resolves to extend the period for the consideration of the following statutory instruments for a period of 21 days. One, the National Cereals and Produce Board National Strategic Reserve Regulations 2023, legal notice number 25 of 2023, with effect from 1st August 2023. Number two, the Universities Regulations 2023, legal notice number 56 of 2023, with effect from 17th August 2023. And lastly, number 3, Access to Information General Regulations 2023, legal notice number 57 of 2023, with effect from 17th of August 2023. Mr. Speaker,
who is your seconder?
Mr. Speaker, this is just purely a procedural motion just to ensure that the regulations that have been tabled before the committee do not lapse or do not come into effect without the House considering them. And so we are just requesting for extension of time to enable us to consider this regulation and bring them to the House as necessary, Mr. Speaker. My second, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and I would like to request the Honorable Bashir, member of the committee, to second.
Honorable Bashir.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Thank you. Order, members. Honorable Pukosi, take your seats or freeze where you are. Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 15, subsection 3 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013, relating to extension of period of handling of statutory instruments by the National Assembly, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the following statutory instruments by a period of 21 days. 1, the National Cereals and Produce Board National Strategic Reserve Regulations 2023, legal notice number 25 of 2023, with effect from 1st August 2023. 2, the Universities Regulations 2023, legal notice number 56 of 2023, with effect from 17th August 2023. 3, Access to Information General Regulations 2023, legal notice number 57 of 2023, with effect from 17th August 2023. I'll now put the question. Okay. Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your indulgence. Honorable Speaker, as I commend the Honorable Chepkonga for this extension, just to caution, Honorable Speaker, because I remember on the second item, the Universities Regulations of 2023, that the Honorable Chepkonga is aware that these regulations touched on matters that were amending the Act
And we had requested that in considering these regulations, he ensures that especially on matters touching on university funding, that nothing is done to amend the Universities Act using regulations. If anybody wants to amend an act of parliament, Honorable Speaker, they should bring an amendment to the particular act, but not use regulations to amend the actual statute. Honorable Speaker, I would just want to remind Honorable Chepkonga to ensure that, and I hope you bring a motion for either disapproval or partial approval of those regulations so that we approve what relates to the open university, what relates to the funding of universities, because again, the regulations, if Honorable Chepkonga has gone through them with the Committee on Education, the regulations are also not in tandem with the new funding model for university education. And therefore, we must ensure that whatever we do, government is speaking in a coherent manner such that we are not talking about a new model of funding public universities, then using regulations, we are amending the statute to do other things, Honorable Speaker. And I just want to remind the Honorable Chepkonga, I know there are people who are very excited that by dint of time, those regulations would stand approved. And I must commend Honorable Chepkonga for extending that time, because there are characters, I am certain, who imagined that this regulation will stand approved by dint of passage of time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Chepkonga, I hope you get those concerns. Right, and now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Section 15(3) of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013, relating to extension of period of handling of statutory instruments by the National Assembly, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the following statutory instruments by a period of 21 sitting days. 1. The National Cereals and Produce Board National Strategic Reserve Regulations 2023, legal notice number 25 of 2023, with effect from 1st August 2023. 2. The Universities Regulations 2023, legal notice number 56 of 2023, with effect from 17th August 2023. And 3. Access to Information General Regulations 2023, legal notice number 57 of 2023, with effect from 17th August 2023. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honourable members, we'll now go back to order number 7. We've disposed of statements. We now come to questions. The first minister to appear this afternoon is the minister, the cabinet secretary responsible for agriculture and livestock development. Can the minister? Yes, Osoro?
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I seek your indulgence to appreciate the students that have visited Parliament today, and in particular, the students from South Mogrango, Mr. Speaker, and particularly Nyamondo Secondary School. Mr. Speaker, I felt it wise to appreciate them formally in the floor because that is a school that is found within the remote areas of my constituency, and finding their way to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, is quite motivating. And this reminds me that I first visited this house when you were sitting in the benches as a student, as a primary school student, and I sat in the public gallery. So that actually shows that anything is possible. That today, the students that have visited us today from South Mogrango, tomorrow, one of them could be taking their position even on my seat here where I sit. So, Honorable Speaker, that is what I wanted to say, and appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture. Order, member from Horoni. Order. Honorable Koyo, this is not part of Horoni constituency, is it? Thank you. Honorable Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock, Honorable Inturi, welcome to Parliament. This is a place you are familiar with. You've been a member of this House. This afternoon you will answer questions listed by members to you. Be concise and precise in answering the questions, the primary questions, and I will be allowing 1 or 2 joyriders to each question so that they can be able to hold you to account on behalf of the executive as is required under the Constitution. First question is question 101 of 2023 by the member for Suba South, the Honorable Karoli Omondi. Karoli Omondi, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I now have the pleasure to ask question number 101 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures in place to address the re-emergence of animal diseases that were put under control in the country, such as anthrax, East Coast fever, contagious bovine pleuropneumonia, and trypanosomiasis, and the policy measures to eradicate them? Could the Cabinet Secretary state the policy measures instituted to address the proliferation of unlicensed and unregulated animal medicines in the country? Could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the plans the government has put in place towards the establishment of trypanosomiasis centers in Suba South and Suba North constituencies to control the tsetse menace in the said sub-counties? And could the Cabinet Secretary outline the measures that the Ministry has put in place towards distributing free livestock drugs and vaccines to farmers whose livestock have been greatly affected by the recurrence of the said diseases? And finally, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether the farmers around Ruma National Park whose livestock have been affected by tsetse flies are eligible for compensation by Kenya Wildlife Service? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Karoli Omondi. Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, if you may allow me, we are happy as a ministry to subject ourselves to the authority of this House, the representatives of the people of Kenya, to answer questions or matters that regard to our ministry. Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence, and if you may allow me, ask you to kindly, because there is supplementary information I'm waiting for from my office in regard to this particular question, so that I'm able to do proper justice to it, that I start with any other question, so that by the time we are finishing with the others, I may be able to answer this question being the last question, because I wouldn't want to give my good friend Karoli Omondi an answer that I don't feel is sufficient enough, because I have a very short time to interact with the answer. I'll seek your guidance, Mr. Speaker.
But not, even if Karoli wasn't your good friend, you have a duty to answer the question. Karoli, you'll have to wait for much later. Next question, 154 of 2023. Member for Mumias East, Peter Salasia.
Why is it?
Mr. Speaker, I have a question to ask to the Cabinet Secretary to outline the steps that the government is taking to support local companies to produce and supply BT cotton seeds to farmers in order to mitigate the high prices associated with the monopoly of supply by a single source. The number two, also would like him to enumerate the measures put in place by the ministry to address the constant price increases of BT cotton seeds, which is straining farmers by increasing the cost of production. And then the last one, to state the viable alternatives being explored by the ministry to address the high cost of BT cotton production, especially for the small-scale farmers who cannot afford the high cost of seeds, fertilizer and insecticides every planting season? Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply as follows. The government is making efforts to attract companies to produce certified cotton seed in the country. And in order to attract suppliers of BT cotton in the country, Mr. Speaker, we advertised for expression of interest of suppliers on the 20th of April 2023, and on 27th June, Mr. Speaker, potential companies have applied for the production of BT cotton since in the country, and the evaluation process is ongoing. And we have developed a 3-year production target plan for cotton production of 40 acres in the year 2023-2024 and 60,000 in the year 2023-2025. Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, we are launching in collaboration with the Governor of Busia on Friday the growing of cotton on an acre range of 11,000 hectares, and in another 2-3 months, Mr. Speaker, because of the collaboration and support we are getting from other partners, we are going to get seed that I believe will be enough to support our farmers. Mr. Speaker, on the question of what we are doing to address the issue of also rising high cost of BT cotton, the country has already identified a supplier called Imeco Limited, and is importing seed from a company called in India. And since the approval and commercialization of the BT cotton seed production in 2019-2020, the supplier is now having or storing in BT cotton in its warehouse here, and it is towards these efforts of bringing down the cost of BT cotton that we've gotten into collaboration, government has gotten into collaboration and other stakeholders, and we've been purchasing and distributing cotton seed to farmers free of charge, and that is why we are collaborating with the Governor of Busia this Friday for us to be able to cushion farmers on the rising costs of the BT cotton. Mr. Speaker, the other on what the ministry is doing so that there is affordable fertilizer and insecticide, where the government and its stakeholders, we are doing 100% subsidy on BT cotton, which is now being supplied to farmers. And the government, with the county governments, are in collaboration in mobilizing farmers into strong cooperatives and building capacity for these cooperatives. And currently, we have 31 operational cotton cooperatives, which are expected to mobilize enough resources to put for inputs and organize marketing and seed cotton through contracting engineers and textile mills. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right. Salasia.
Speaker, I just want to thank the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture for responding and coming up with the necessary action. And I think because being the member of Agriculture Committee in that Committee of Agriculture, I'm so proud of what is taking. And when a Cabinet Secretary, you should invite me in that meeting in Busia so that I can tell them that I brought the message to you and you have acted on it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
Mr. Speaker, I will direct my PS to carry him in his chopper when he's doing that on Friday, so that he takes part in this very important event, because we want to collaborate the ministry.
I've never gone with the chopper, so please, I'm begging to be that trip.
Thank you, Honorable Salasia. Your excitement is understandable. Is that that's the member for Bura?
For Langata.
Oh.
Thank you.
Langata member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You grow cotton in Langata?
No,
Go ahead.
we don't grow cotton in Langata, but having been born and bred in a cotton rearing area, and Honorable Kaluma can attest that Homa Bay County and the larger Kisumu area has the best black cotton soil. Growing up, cotton was the only agricultural activity that used to happen in Homa Bay. And we used to have the Homa Bay Ginnery. As we speak today, the Ginnery is closed and there's no any sign of cotton plantations there, and there's no sign or any intervention by the government to bring back the cotton issue back to Homa Bay. Kindly, as you go to Busia, Bwana CS, kindly remember to bring back cotton to where cotton belongs. Then that will see the comeback of Homa Bay Cotton Ginnery and the revival of Kikomi, which was one of the biggest textile companies that was being supplied by the farmers in that region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Jalango. Who is the member next to you? Honorable Ukukaunya, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask the Minister to give us an assurance that the idea of launching will be followed up with a serious, robust distribution of seeds to farmers. Mr. Speaker, the reason I'm saying we need the assurance is 2 years ago, the launching of BT cotton was done in Busia. I attended that ceremony, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the promise that was given was seeds will be available to farmers. The following year, to date, the seeds have not been availed. And Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask also the Minister, the traditional cotton seeds that were being given by the ministry to farmers as we await this transition, could that provision be availed to farmers as we await for the full production of beet cotton seeds? Mr. Speaker, the last question I wanted to ask.
Only one. You are a joyrider. You can't ask 3 questions. That's enough, Honorable Kaunya.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that opportunity.
Thank you. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I want
Let's
to
take one more minute.
I want to give.
Hold on. Honorable Kirima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My humble question to the minister is that we're taking cotton to Busia, where Honorable Salesia has talked about. Can the minister tell us that all the former cotton growing areas are going to benefit from this beet cotton, especially Meru, Central Menti, whereby we have a lying Ginnery, which has no cotton up to date to Miri because there is no cotton on the ground. And this cotton, which is going to come, can the minister guarantee us that he is going to make sure that fertilizer is going to be distributed to the sub-counties constituencies? Because as we stand, counties are too large that fertilizer is mainly going to county headquarters, and it's very inconveniencing to farmers, especially Asura farmers who cannot afford transport to go to the headquarters, which is full of cartels. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, you can answer those 3.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the concerns of the honorable members, and let me assure them that under the Kenya Kwanza plan and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, cotton is one of the key value chains that this government is really serious on. And under AFA, we have our own directorate of cotton to promote the growth of these fiber crops. So, Mr. Speaker, in Omambe, and we want to assure you, because under this plan, the government has mapped 24 counties which have good source for the growth of cotton. Omambe included, Meru included. And we are in the process. Once we do the launch on Friday, we expect to move on, and I'll be reaching out to members of parliament within these counties so that we work partner together, and because we have set aside money for the purchase of seed so that the members of parliament can be involved. We want to ensure that in the next 1 year, we are able to support the farmers to grow cotton that is enough so that we can close on the imports of cotton, so that we can be able to revive the cotton granaries that we have in our country, because that is how we'll only be able to take money to the pockets of our people. So take my commitment. I want to tell you, having been a member of parliament, how passionate you are. I feel you, and I am ready, and we'll make sure that this is done. But when we come to you, just in the event that there is a requirement that you also want certain finances, or this important house to appropriate finances to meet those demands, kindly please give us support.
Thank you. Next question. Will you also give out fertilizer alongside the seeds? I think that's what
Mr. Speaker, we will be able to, when we are supporting farmers, and I think I've just come from a press conference with the president when he was trying to explain the measures that his government or what we are doing to support farmers. Today we have agreed with the governors that for us to be able even to have proper delivery, last mile delivery of fertilizer, we are going to partner together where our governors will be able to get us warehouses or stores where we'll be able to take fertilizer, so that the problem much more the Member of Parliament for Women Central is talking about is eradicated. Where farmers don't have to move or travel for many kilometers to go and pick 2 or 3 bags of fertilizer. So we've agreed, we are working on an arrangement how that will be done, and I am sure, and I want to tell you that as we distribute the cotton seed for planting, all the members that have been registered in our system will be also able to get their fertilizer through the e-voucher system that is in place for them to plant. So we are prepared, we are ready, and today or from yesterday, the cost of fertilizer has gone down. We are selling fertilizer at 2,500, and because we are also getting into the season of the short rains, the collaboration that I'm asking for is so that we're able to work together to ensure that fertilizer gets to our farmers in those regions, so that our farmers are able to start planting early enough so that we're able to get increased yield. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Waziri. Next, question 155 of 2023. Member for Mogotio, Ruben Kiborek. He has sent me a letter requesting that he's nominated Korir Adams, MP for Keio North, to ask the question on his behalf. Honorable Korir, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, Honorable, my colleague is not here because he's bereaved, and I would like to ask the Minister, question number 1, to explain the plans that the government has put in place to allocate seed money for the establishment of revolving fund under the State Department for Livestock Development to fund the purchase of hides and skins for processing by Wasanyiro South Development Authority. Number 2, consider offering technical support, assistance and capacity building to the county government of Baringo in the hides and skins processing industry, so that to realize value addition, improve the quality of hides and skins, and create jobs among the pastoral community in the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to respond as follows. That the ministry is making proposals for the establishment of SIN money of a revolving fund and the State Department of Livestock Development to fund the purchase of hinds and skin for processing. And the ministry is currently supporting the mopping up of hinds and skin by the Wasonyiro South Development Authority and the State Department of Arid and Semi-Arid Lands within the Regional Development Department and other state agencies. The Wasonyiro South, Mr. Speaker, Development Agency is operating a tannery to once meeting the mopping up of the hinds and skins in Narok County, and has already been allocated 100 million in the budget for purposes of meeting this end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the next question is what the ministry is doing to give support to the county governments. We want to say that the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development and through the Kenya Leather Development Council offers technical capacity building to county governments, including the county government of Baringo, in hinds and skin improvement and processing. And this initiative is geared towards the improving of the quality of seed, and which will in due course increase the price of hinds and skin, and also improve the value of the leather products for both domestic and markets. And I think we've also given the support of the sales, the certain equipments these counties that are used for slaughter, so that the skins are not really damaged. So, Mr. Speaker, that's the support we've been able to give to the county of Baringo, and we want to ask the members if they have any other ideas on what, with the consultation of the governments, we've asked the county governments, governors, in the event that there's anything that they feel we need to do better, they're always welcome, so that we work together for the greater good of our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Boss Korir, you have a supplementary. Let's start with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Not really a direct supplementary from me, but I was requesting that now that we have Honorable Chamatia, who is from Baringo, is here, to be given a few minutes.
You cannot solicit for any member to ask a question. Honorable Korir, you are out of order. Honorable Boss, Chamatia is a very competent member of parliament. If she wants to ask a question, she will seek space.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to be able just to get clarification from the Minister. Honorable Minister, I think you've mentioned that you're going to give technical support so you can promote the processing of hides and skins. But we know that the biggest challenge in the country, why we've never harnessed this industry, is because all the abattoirs in the country are old ones. They are all from independence times. There's no modern abattoir in the country except the one in the export processing zone, the EPZ place, the Kenya Meat Commission one. It's called Kenya Meat. And so it will not be, this program cannot work unless there is a direct plan to install modern abattoirs so that the skin is not damaged and the quality comes well. And also the processing of the skin initially at the abattoir so that it doesn't rot before it gets to the processing plant. So I've seen the budgets and I didn't see a single budget for the modern abattoirs. So maybe you can clarify that if there's a plan.
Thank you.
We'll take Honorable Pauline.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two questions.
Only one.
Only one, okay. I want to ask the Minister, I know that the President and the Kenya Kwanza government has put place programs in order to reduce the cost of living. And one of them is to provide subsidized fertilizer to the farmers. We have a section of Samburu County that people grow crops. And as far as I am informed, that Samburu County is one of the priority counties that you are giving subsidized fertilizer. And I wanted to know the reason why. Thank you.
You want to know why you are a priority? Or why you are not? Why you are not, okay?
Yeah, why we are not the priority counties.
Thank you, Pauline. Go ahead, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me be able to reply to the supplementary question from the Deputy Speaker and say that, Mr. Speaker, the government as of today is almost at the level of operationalizing the Kenanya Leather Park. And while we are mopping up skin and hide through the Wasonyiro and the Ministry Department of in Asal, is for us to be able to get them and get them properly processed and be able to do the best for the country out of leather. But Mr. Speaker, we have also made sure, and we are interested in ensuring that other abattoirs are operational. And right now, the program is to have some other 6 abattoirs operational, and I think some in that side of Baringu. I can commit and confirm that Toan's support of this program, Isiolo, is complete. And the cold rooms are being fabricated, Mr. Speaker, in Italy, where I have come from, because I was there the whole of last week. And that's just a demonstration of how this government is committed to ensuring the leather value chain is given the recognition and the support that is required. And we are working tirelessly because we know the kind of transformative effect that this has on our economy. So it don't just boost for another few months, and I'm sure we will be able to roll out the program on leather, and I want to do it because it's something that is now being done. Remember, we've passed the leather policy, which I think, if it has not been brought, has been approved by Cabinet, and we are heading the ones, in my view, the right direction. Mr. Speaker, you will guide me whether to answer the question raised by the member on fertilizer, because the issue we are handling here is about eyes and skin.
Generally, if as a minister you must be having facts about your ministry at your fingertips, if you have the facts, you can answer the honorable member. If you are not ready with it, you can seek indulgence of the House.
Mr. Speaker,
the question was very simple. Why is Samburu County not on your priority list in giving out subsidized fertilizer? If it is, you say it is. If it isn't, explain.
Mr. Speaker, in the course of answering these questions, I will be able to respond more appropriately because there's a question that on matters related to fertilizer from the member for Bori. So let me gather the information more, but I know out of the 41 counties that we've been distributing fertilizer and there's a subsidy program, Samburu is one of the counties that we've been able to take fertilizer. So in the intervening period, I would be able to give the quantities of the fertilizer that were there and the number of farmers that were registered in Samburu, because one of the criteria for the allocation of fertilizer was the number of registered farmers and the acreage that they were to apply the fertilizer.
Thank you. We allow you to write to the honorable member and give her the details of what you are providing for Samburu. Next question, 224 of 2023, member for Teso North, Honorable Oku Kaunya.
Number?
Honorable Kaunya.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Sorry. I think I've skipped one question, Honorable Kaunya. I'm sorry, I'll come to you shortly. Question 223. The Honorable Member for Keio South, Gideon Kimayo.
Yeah.
1, 5, 6. Oh yes, Mukunji. Sorry, I was running ahead of everybody. 156, Honorable Kitonga Mukunji. Go ahead, Honorable Mukunji.
Okay, thank you.
Use that.
Honorable Speaker, I start to ask this question on behalf of my people of Manyata constituency and also the farmers of macadamia nuts. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock Development, and for the records, I'm Gitonga Mukunji because of the Minister, Member of Parliament, Manyata constituency. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the steps that have been put in place to protect macadamia farmers from poor pricing and to improve market prices for macadamia nuts in the country? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to address the problem of poor macadamia prices, and of course recognizing that the prices are quite low. First, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to come up or develop macadamia grading guidelines so that farmers are able to grade their macadamia in line with the requirements in terms of quality, so that they are able to gain maximum out of the macadamia they produce. So we are developing guidelines so that this is being, so that we are able to achieve this objective. Mr. Speaker, we are also collaborating with the macadamia and growing county governments so that we are able to develop the proper harvesting calendars for the periods at maturity, because maturity of macadamia takes place in different ecological zones, in different times, so that quality is not compromised, and to ensure the county maintains our market share and attracts better prices internationally. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has also been carrying out value addition training targeted at the producer groups aimed at promoting product diversification, so that we are able to utilize the available nuts and reduce the over-reliance of. So, Mr. Speaker, to once addressing this and recognizing the problem that we have, and our farmers having experienced this problem, and which has also been occasioned by the harvesting of immature nuts, the Directorate of Oil and Crops will freely given strict instructions to enforce the rules so that no macadamia that are not mature are available in the markets. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I personally, having discussed with members of my committee, because I oftenly consult with them to address the immediate problem that there is, and because of the ban of the export of in-shell macadamia, and by virtue of an application of the Crops Act 2013, I, Mr. Speaker, licensed 9 companies to export the in-shell macadamia for a period of 3 months, from the 17th of July 2023 to 16th October, in order to mop up the excess nuts in the market at a price not less than 100, because that was the condition of giving out the license. And why this was necessary, Mr. Speaker, is because we understand the effects of the COVID-19 were real. Some of the export business went down for that particular period, and those people that bought macadamia and were in store were not able to sell. And since they were not able to sell, they have not been able to get more capital for them to buy the garden. So there is excess, some areas excess macadamia, and because there is no capital and because there is that excess, then the unscrupulous or the brokers and the cartels within that space are able to take advantage of that. So to release capital and to enable those people that have been restrained, the reasoning was that we allow them to export, get money out of the export of the in-shell macadamia, accumulate enough capital, and then be able, immediately to start buying macadamia at 100 shillings and above. And I'm happy to report in a meeting with two of the exporters today and people trading in macadamia that today the price of macadamia in some areas is going up to 70 shillings and 80. So I believe in another 1 month we will be able to now get to the 100 target. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mkunji.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also want to thank the Minister for the answer. But, Honorable Speaker, this is not an issue we are engaging with the Minister at the first time. Honorable Speaker, I would like to know where he is on his public announcement that he is going to open export of raw macadamia, and now that he has said there are some companies, 5 companies he has licensed. I would like the Minister to state the names of the companies so that I can share that with my people and know where they can get good prices. I also want the Minister to help this House understand what is doing to protect the micro smallholder farmers, the growers, from the issue of brokers that he himself has mentioned, that is part of what is making the macadamia prices to always be low. And I would also like to hear from the Minister what he is doing in terms of research and development of macadamia nuts, sale, and so that we can have a competitive in terms of competitiveness in the world in the macadamia, and also on the issue of improvement in the local consumption of macadamia nut. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kamei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me be part of the joy riders that you're calling us to ask a question, not about the crop that has been mentioned, but the crops that are related with the same in terms of being grown by small-scale farmers. I'm concerned with sweet potatoes that are grown in some parts of Kericho, parts of Soin, Kipkelion, West, and Soka millet, which are grown in asal areas. My point is, what plans does the Minister has for these small-scale farmers in terms of the technical support and ready market for the same? Because our farmers, and especially the sweet potatoes, we see them in some marketry, but the middlemen will always come to buy from them with low prices, yet the farmers put a lot of money in it, a lot of time, and their prices are very low. So may the Minister let us know the plans he has for such crops. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have, Mukunji is saying I have licensed 9 companies, not 5. I'm in consultation so that I'm able to get the full names because I don't want to mislead the House, but I'm sure it's 9. If I was to mention, I will not remember all of them offhand, but we'll be able to, we can share the information. But I have licensed 9 companies. We will be sharing with you the names of those companies. In terms of trying to protect the farmers, Mr. Speaker, and let me generally say, Mr. Speaker, when this, in the wisdom of this Parliament, passed the AFA Act and collapsed most of our crops into that institution, there are many directorates within AFA. There is the coffee, there is oil and the nuts, there is the cotton, the fiber. Mr. Speaker, why there is the feeling that many things have not been done right before? Mr. Speaker, up to now, I've also not been able to understand whether it was by design or by default. But Mr. Speaker, AFA stayed for 8 years without a board, without an without an MD. So policy and direction in terms of promotion and regulation on all the crops that are within AFA was a big problem. So my immediate understanding the importance of these agricultural crops to our economy and to the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, was to form the board of AFA, which is less than with 2 months. And within the 2 months, Mr. Speaker, they are moving up and down. They are trying their best. They are coming with these regulations. So I will seek the indulgence of the members because the directorates within, like the oil and the nuts, the cotton and fiber, is being worked on, and Mr. Speaker, we will be able to address these challenges because it has not been that easy. But let me promise that this will be able to do because they have timelines by when they must do it, just like we have timelines on how to address the issue of sugar, which they have also been working on. And Mr. Speaker, it won't take me more than 30 to 45 days until we come out with a way forward on all this. On the issue of millet and sorghum is the very crops that we are also trying to promote within the ministry. And I want to invite you for you to also to appreciate the importance of millet and sorghum in one of the greatest conferences in the world. It's called the Millet Conference, which we've been able to lobby and to bring it to Kenya in KICC on the 31st, on the 30th and 31st. 25 first leaders of the world are going to grace this particular conference, and we are asking people, millet growers, different types of millet to be participants because this is a crop that we want to promote. And that is a demonstration of how serious we are getting in really addressing the issues of farmers. Mr. Mukunji, for any avoidance of doubt, we have a company called Fair Nuts, Nice Mart Traders, Exotic, Nutri-Nuts, Super Tropical Fruits and Nuts, Enden Swing Traders, OCM Consulting, Lenana Processing, and Kanyeli Packers. Those are the companies that we licensed upon application for export of Winchell macadamia, so that at least they will be able to offload the macadamia they have to the external, to the world market, so that they're able to raise enough capital for them to start purchasing macadamia at 100 shillings and above. This was the agreement, and I expect once they are done, the prices of macadamia to rise.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Agnes Pareyo, question 222 of 2023. Sorry, Agnes. There's a reflection of light behind the honorable member. I can't quite see your face. Honorable.
Okay, my name is Kenneth Kazungu Tungule.
Yes,
I have
Tungule.
a question to the minister, a supplementary question. Okay, I had wanted to know what steps the minister has to protect the cashew nut farmers in Kilifi, because I think they are facing the same problems as the macadamia farmers. So I wanted to know whether the steps that he has mentioned about to protect the macadamia farmers will also apply to the cashew nut farmers in Kilifi. Mind you, the whole of Kilifi County is a cashew nut growing area, but the farmers have been exploited by middlemen and the Indian processors who give them very poor prices for their produce. So I want to know whether there are any measures that the ministry has put in place to protect these farmers so that they can get good prices for their crops. Thank you.
And the Kemei is protesting that you didn't touch on sweet potatoes. So you can deal with sweet potatoes and cashew nuts.
Mr. Speaker, let me first deal directly with the question that has just been raised by the member representing cashew nut farmers.
Member for Kaloleni.
And after, Mr. Speaker, we have a directorate by the name Oil and Nuts Directorate. This is where cashew nut, macadamia, sunflower, and others are. So the regulations and the measures we are putting in place are that are being proposed, or the guidelines coming out from being developed by this directorate, will be able to take care of all the farmers that do edibles. And there is also a commitment under direction that this particular here, because we really need to support the growth of edible oil crops, we have putting in money that will be able to support farmers from this region. There is clarification that I'm seeking for on how much we must do, and rest assured that the Kenya Kwanza government under William Ruto is committed to supporting the people of the coast. So we ask you to kindly partner with us, work together as a representative of the people. That's our interest. And as the person given the responsibility by the end of state to champion this cause, I am ready, willing, and available at any time. If you want to consult me, or you want me to visit your area and tell me what you want us to do, engage the farmers, I have devolved the ministry from Clean House to our farmers, and that's why I'm permanently out. So I am ready. That's what we can. Mr. Speaker, I cannot exactly be able to pick out what these great leaders wanted to know about the sweet potatoes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question about the sweet potatoes is that it is grown in parts of Kericho, Soin, and Kilion West, but market is the issue. There is no ready market. We have the small-scale farmers who are exploited by the middlemen. So I'm asking what the ministry has, the plans the ministry has in connection with that. Yet, Mr. Speaker, outside the country, you will realize that in some supermarkets we can find the sweet potatoes. I went to Geneva and I found some, but our farmers are just there. Thank you,
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me say this, and I think is a common information in the public that the responsibility of production is on our ministry, and we're happy what our farmers are doing. The Kenya Kwanza plan was clear, and it is on the need to do value addition and agro-processing. We are working very closely with the Ministry of Trade, Agriculture, and MSMEs, because we are trying to organize farmers in cooperatives and to be able to aggregate, so that, Mr. Speaker, through the current, the idea of CAIPs, the county aggregation centers, will be able to ensure that we are able to aggregate and be able to hand value to our farm produce, so that, Mr. Speaker, when we do the aggregation and we are able to own, then it is be our responsibility to dictate what price to sell our products. And the whole reason is to avoid the middlemen, to avoid post-harvest losses, so that our farmers are able to get the best prices available. Mr. Speaker, if we were to add value to our produce, I agree we will get better money. I have a project called NAV CDP, and this NAV CDP is in your account. We are targeting to do value addition in every ward, and we are going to spend an amount of 20 million shillings for those value addition centers that we want to do in every county, so that our farmers are able to add value to their produce. We are also going within every county that we are going to operate. We are going to support the creation of cooperatives to give farmers the ability to run their business, money to organize themselves and borrow money as revolving fund within the want. This is even a want base. So, Mr. Speaker, if the Member of Parliament will urge government and be able to wait for some bit of time, because we may not have an instant answer to the problem, because there is a structured way of addressing the long-term problems that we have through the county aggregation centers. Please allow us, and because advertisements have been done in the first phase of 14 counties was done, I think the other one either has come out or is coming out in another 1 week. This is an issue or matter we are going to solve in the long run. Mr. Speaker, Samburu. There was a question on how much fertilizer we give to Samburu, and I have, Mr. Speaker, the answer. Samburu was one of the 41 counties that we gave fertilizer on the first phase, and Samburu only redeemed 4,480 bags. It is still in the program this year, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue supporting them. The only request I make is that kindly ask your farmers to get registered. When you get your farmers registered, they will be able to get fertilizer, because we are not going to give fertilizer to anybody who is not within our farmers' data. So that could be the problem. So assist me. We are coming to support small irrigation schemes in Samburu. And one of the things I want us to partner is, once we started these small irrigation schemes, we want you to organize how to register farmers within those small irrigation schemes, so that I'm able to follow up and give them support for them to produce food and be able to see what best we can do to really optimize the allocation of money we are going to put into this into your county, and be able to grow more food for ourselves, because we have serious potential.
Thank you, Minister. Do you have the answer to Carol Mondi's question before I go to Agnes?
Not yet, Mr.
Not
Speaker.
yet. Agnes Pareyo, question 222.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask the CS Agriculture and Livestock Development the following questions. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why Nengetia National Cereals and Produce Board depots in Olokurto Sub-County, Narok North constituency are idle, forcing farmers to travel kilometers away to dry their produce at Narok town, whereby incurring losses? 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary outline the efforts being put in place to revive the Nengetia depots in Narok North constituency? Could the Cabinet Secretary consider outsourcing the depots to private entities to run the facility for the benefit of the farmers? Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, the Nengetia National Cereals and Produce Board depot is a known depot which was commissioned in 1978 and has still silos up to now and pins with a capacity of 55,000 bags of 90 kilograms, located 43.8 kilometers away from Narok town. The depot is idle because, Mr. Speaker, of the nature and the nature of the old obsolete equipment that were installed. The depot, Mr. Speaker, does not have a grain dryer, and the depot is not connected to electricity. That is the reason, Mr. Speaker, is not being used. But, Mr. Speaker, we have put in place mechanisms to ensure that we revive this depot, and we are happy and lucky that recently the tarmac road to Enegitia is under construction and was tarmacked up to that place and is now easily accessible. And the National Cereals and Produce Board at the moment has applied for electric connection to the depot, and the application is being fast-tracked with Kenya Power and Lighting Company. Mr. Speaker, we want to tell the member that we have earmarked this facility for upgrade and a government-sponsored mechanization project. And since we appreciate the good work the farmers of this country are doing, and for those that have took the fertilizer, and considering that we must be properly prepared to mitigate loss during this harvest and to deal with the post-harvest losses, we have acquired, or will be able to provide, a mobile dryer to Enegitia, so that those farmers are not do not really travel to those that long distance to have their maize dried. Mr. Speaker, in terms of whether we want to outsource these depots to private entities or not, our response is as follows. Because we have been considering outsourcing depots to private entities, Enegitia is included, and the outsourcing is down, or will be guided by the National Cereals and Produce policy that guides leasing out of depots and other facilities to interested parties. And we have a profile of the silos. A profile of the silo was developed and shared with stakeholders in the green sector to partner with NSPB and use the facility for the benefit of the farmers on the ground. That's generally for whatever we are doing all over the country. But Mr. Speaker, let me say that right now, because of the expected bumper harvest, we are also looking or hiring extra silos or extra depots so that we are able to store enough maize. We are able to have dryers all over, and we are purchasing 100 dryers to deal to dry our maize during this season, Mr. Speaker. And I am sure we can better first be able to utilize this government facility, because whatever was required for it to operate is something that we've done over 90%. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right. Agnes, you're satisfied?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for answering my questions, and then again bring to his attention that my constituency has 4 sub-counties. That is the Central and then Narok North. And Olokurto is situated in Narok North, where so many farmers are doing huge or large farming in wheat, barley, maize. And now it's a season that we need a dryer for the maize, because we have a lot of maize in that area. And I just want to thank you for saying that we are soon or considering reviving the stores. And it's not only about the stores, it's about, because the facility is big, there are shops there where you can be taking or supplying fertilizers to the farmers in Narok North, so that women can as well reach the fertilizers in a nearby place. Because of the roads, the situation of the roads in Narok North, the roads are impassable. And when you take these fertilizers nearer to the people, so many people will benefit and they can be able to do farming easily. So I want to say thank you, and we are looking forward for the revival of the depots so that the farmers cannot be traveling long distances when they need fertilizers and when they want to dry their cereals. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Agnes. That's a statement in appreciation. Next question, 223. Gideon Kimayo, member for Keyo South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to answer the question 223 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the cost of top-pressing CAN fertilizer prices remain relatively high despite the government subsidy program on fertilizers? Secondly, state the actual price of 50 kg bag of CAN top-pressing fertilizers charged by the National Cereals and Produce Board. Number 3, highlight the measures the government is taking to prevent skyrocketing of fertilizer prices occasioned by middlemen, and further state the measures government is pursuing to avail the fertilizers to farmers at appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply as follows. I'm aware that the market price of CAN fertilizer is relatively high, at an average price of 5,400 for a 50 kilogram bag. But however, the price is now lower compared to the price of 5,900 last year. The cost of top-dressing fertilizer CAN is high, Mr. Speaker, because government is not an importer of fertilizer. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the price of the imported CAN fertilizer is influenced by the free on-board price, the freight charges, the clearing, handling, and exchange rate fluctuations. Mr. Speaker, regarding to question number 2, the actual price of a CAN top-dressing fertilizer charged by the National Cereals and Produce Board, and this is what I want to stress. The prices given are the prices out there in the market. The government, because of its commitment to support production and with the subsidy program, is retailing fertilizer at 2,500 from yesterday. It has been going for the 500, but from yesterday we started selling fertilizer at 2,500. And yesterday alone we did a sale of over 34,000 bags of fertilizer. So for those farmers that are feeling the pain or the pinch are the ones that did not in the government call to get registered and farmers. We have opened again an exercise for registration of farmers, and I want to ask the farmers of this country to benefit from government support to really get registered as farmers, because we will be able to give them the support they require. They will be able to access fertilizer at the least price that government is selling. Mr. Speaker, the measures that we are taking to prevent the skyrocketing prices of fertilizer, up to now, I am not aware whether there are any middlemen contributing to these high prices, because out of the application of our e-voucher system, Mr. Speaker, all the cartels within the fertilizer space have now disappeared within here. And the price of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker, even as we discuss, is in most cases is determined by international prices, international in the distribution costs and markups, and you really cannot be able to really determine or dictate how much a profit a retailer or someone who is not within our system, how much is likely or he wants to make depending on his operation costs. And I think, Mr. Speaker, to bring down the cost and prevent the rising cost of fertilizer in the country for the benefit of the farmers that do not get registered, I think the the subsidy program is playing some role in ensuring that the farmers are not highly exploited by the farmers. And through this program, Mr. Speaker, and once the farmers are registered and they are not uploaded into our e-voucher system, they will realize how important or easy it is for them to access fertilizer, because they will really get serious benefit out of the subsidy program that the government is running. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you.
Thank you. Kimayo.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I think there is a question on what we are doing to avail fertilizer to the farmers at the appropriate time.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Mr. Speaker, the government, to avail the fertilizer in good time, and because, like, for example, the short rains are coming in the next 1 month, we have already launched the distribution program for fertilizer so that it is able to reach to and get to our farmers in a good time. I was in my PS last week was crops development, was in Kisii last week, in the Kisii, Busia, and Bungoma, in the company of some of our distinguished members of parliament. On Saturday, I was personally in Makueni with the governor of Makueni, flagging off fertilizer so that the fertilizer is able to get to our farmers in good time. We've had discussions, and we were in a meeting today morning, Mr. Speaker, and for those that are the benefit of watching news at 1 o'clock, the end of state came out very strongly to explain the discussions and the agreements we have entered with the governors, including them hiring stores where we will be able to get to store our fertilizer, where we will be able to take our staff for purposes of easier redemption by our farmers at the closest stores within their regions. And this is one of the reasons, one of the mechanisms we have put in place so that fertilizer gets the farmers within the shortest time possible. We also have 100 equity stocks within our NSPB stores, and we are interested in now partnering with the governors so that whatever stock we have can also be able to assist us now get it closer to the ones. And in the course of time, Mr. Speaker, my intention is to map out the aggregates that have the capacity, that will pass the integrity test, that will not hand a coin to any bag on the cost of bag of fertilizer, so that we can even get fertilizer accessible to the farmers more closely in the course of time. But this is an exercise that we are working, because the Swedish government gave me support, and we are trying to map, to register farmers more, to lay the proper infrastructure for use by the farmers.
Good. Basil.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. My question is, to what extent are you utilizing technology to be able to know which area wants or needs what fertilizer? Because if you look at Russia as well as Israel, they are using drones to be able to understand what area or what soil needs what type of fertilizer. So that's a question to the Minister. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very good question.
Hold on, I'll take Karemba. Kimayo, you asked twice, didn't you?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have noted that in my constituency that if farmers get the fertilizer on time, it is the best thing that can happen. Now my question to the CS is, instead of considering the agrovets and vetting them so as to establish their integrity levels, why can't you use the existing offices of the National Government Administration Officers, including the DCC? And I am saying this because I have seen them distribute relief food, and they bring us on board, and we get the relief food get to to the vulnerable and the people it's supposed to get to? Why can't you use that infrastructure because it is existing and it is working? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is that Kawanjibu? Or is
Kirima, Speaker.
Kirima.
Kirima, my humble question, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My humble question to the Minister for Agriculture. As now the national government, when the minister tells us that he is going to join hand with the county government to distribute fertilizer, or for the county governments to provide stores whereby fertilizer will be kept for farmers to reach it quickly, isn't there going to be conflicts of interests whereby politics is going to play a role? For some of the governors are going to use it as a campaign tool to deny or to make sure that those who are not favorable to them are going to miss this subsidy. And in the process, what is the central the national government doing to the county government? Are you giving money to the county government to hire those places? Or is there any special fund to hire stores to keep the fertilizer? Because it means that some places who lack this fertilizer, for the county governments may be unable to hire. Let's say like in Meru County, where we have 9 constituencies, 9 sub-counties. Will the county governments be able to hire 9 warehouses to store this fertilizer? And in the process,
enough, we have asked.
Finally, Speaker, when it is done, Mr. Speaker,
your time is spent. Let's take one more. Chematia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also, from onset, I want to thank the Minister for most of the good work he's doing in the ministry. My question is more of a compliment. I wanted to understand the idea of millet and sorghum. I come from Baringo, which is a very favorable area to do that kind of a crop. 2, we are experiencing little rains now, and most likely you're going to have an El Nino coming for the next 3 months or so. Is it possible for you, Minister, to organize early enough for us to start planting millets? We can start by using the seeds that you have, so that we can engage our farmers now. 2 is...
One is enough.
Thank you.
Kimayo, you didn't have your supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I appreciate the response from Honorable Cabinet Secretary, he may not be aware of the middlemen in the supply chain of fertilizer distribution. Let me give him using my constituency. My constituency is made up of 2 landscapes. One is the islands, and there is the Kerio Valley. Somebody moving from Kerio Valley all the way to where there is the store where the fertilizers are found will use 1,500 shillings to go and come back, because the ministry just identified 1 store in the sub-county, and it is the same for the other sub-counties in my county. Marakwet West has 1 store. Kerio North, the same. Marakwet East, the same. So for somebody to commute from one place to where there is a store, you need to pay for your own transport, and at the same time, transport to take the fertilizer. So that will increase the cost. So somebody decides, instead of me, commuting the long distance, let me just purchase the fertilizer in a shop nearby. And that is expensive than what is available. So the minister is not aware. Maybe you need to ask the people on the ground. Number 2.
Ask one. We have asked one.
It is related. I'm just to follow up on what he replied, because I'm not satisfied. There is the cooperation between KNTC, the county government, and NCBB. When you go to NCBB to ask why there is, you want a new place to have the fertilizer within the sub-county, you ask it, go to KNTC. When you go to KNTC, talk to your county government. Talk to your county government. The county government says the stores that we asked the NCBB to look into, they have to meet the standards. In my constituency, I have 6 wards. Each ward, there is a store constructed by farmers using cooperatives. Why can't the farmers be allowed to be given fertilizers using the same stores instead of going the direction that the minister is saying we use agrofets? And there are stores which the farmers already have constructed using cooperatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
I'll take one last one again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think, first of all, I want to thank the minister through you, Mr. Speaker, for a wonderful job he's doing in the ministry. And particularly thank the government for these subsidy fertilizers. Mr. Speaker, we expect a pamba harvest, particularly in our area. We expect a huge harvest in South Rift and even North Rift. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the minister whether he has measures in place to buy this maize particularly at a good price, because we are worried, Mr. Speaker, that after this pamba harvest, our farmers will get a very good price, and we are asking the minister to really assist. Secondly, I want to, Mr. Speaker, ask the minister to think about the extension services in this country. I know you don't. This is now with the county government. As a policy maker, what measures do you have in place to make sure that farmers understand whatever we are doing, the husbandry and all this, soil testing, how to apply fertilizer, and that kind of thing? We should. The last one, Mr. Speaker.
Order on the
Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
I gave you an opportunity to ask one supplementary.
Let me ask the last one, Mr. Speaker.
No.
The last one.
Kigumo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm member for Kangema, Honorable Kihongi.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Kangema, not Kigumo.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of distribution, I think that's where there is a major challenge, mostly in areas to do with central Kenya, like Kangema constituency. But like for me, I was allocated 2 bags, but I have been given only 30 days to go and collect. Mr. Speaker, I was thinking, as one member had put it, even though you have a plan to work with county government, we have also structures as a constituency and CDF, whereby you can just release a circular. You release a circular, maybe through the CDF board, whereby they can allow us to use the infrastructures like our vehicles, the GAO vehicles, they are all over in our constituencies, whereby when somebody pays, can now bring a receipt and we assist in distribution, because the only challenge is distribution. But we need a circular to support the payment and the use. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I was asking if we can just use as a litigation measure, because we have only 1 month. But with that circular, some people are coming to us, Mr. Speaker, asking us, why don't you support us with your vehicle? But I cannot be able to use the CDF vehicle or the GAV vehicle unless now we can be able to support through a circular from the government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, most of those questions are related and are on policy. You can combine them and tell the House what you are doing.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be properly understood, because I did not say that we are using agrovets now. I've gone down this country, different counties, and the most recurring question or challenge is that we are walking very long distances to get the fertilizer. I would want really this House to appreciate that the process of coming up with the registration of farmers with the system to give fertilizer did not really we've been in office or we started this thing in January. In just starting 5 points.
Minister, you said you are mapping out aggregate so that you can use them for distribution. Members are saying they have alternative facilities available in their constituencies up to wards. Would you consider using those available facilities instead of aggregate?
Mr. Speaker, my mapping of aggregates is for the future. It's not now. It's the long term, so that this matter is sorted once and for all. But now, because it is urgent to ease the problem of transport, is why we have worked out with the governors. Remember, it is, if we are to deal with the CNDF for now, we will require certain mechanisms, because I don't think the CNDF allows you to go and hire a store. The governors, by the nature of the devolved function of agriculture, we work very closely and they have money. So they can easily pay a temporary store for 2 or 3 months because it is not very expensive. And then I will just carry or hire a temporary staff and be able to give them the laptop or any other equipment that will be able to access our e-voucher system for them to redeem. Because I will not allow any fertilizer being given without going through the e-voucher system. If it's out of this e-voucher system, I can tell you that we've now been able to give 3,200,000 and very specific numbers. So we don't want to run away, and because the commitment of government is to have all our services online, and this is what we must embrace and do. But in the fullness of time, we'll be able to achieve a system whereby at a maximum of around 2 or 3 kilometers, you can go to the nearest agrovet and take your fertilizer through the redemption by use of the e-voucher. That's the long term. But for now, and having to or required to address the challenge of distance, that's what we have brought in the governors, and we have agreed with them on what we need to do, and the remaining period for us to get fertilizer is too short, because we want fertilizer on the ground and with the farmers before the end of next month. Mr. Speaker, a number of questions have been raised, but let me also mention that because of the good work the farmers have done, they will be appearing before the Delegated Legislation Committee, I don't know, next week, because out of the regulation through, we have brought in the request for approval of the strategic food reserve regulations, so that we are able to get enough money to buy. Government is committed, it's set aside money to buy the farmers the maize, and not only even buying, where the government is buying 100 dryers, some mobile, to make sure that we minimize post-harvest losses, and these dryers will be available to the farmers so that the farmers are comfortable. Mr. Speaker, I also want to mention that I don't know, there is a member who has to why millet. Under FAO, this is the International Year of the Millet. And being the International Year of the Millet, and we have to do a lot of lobbying, because FAO is promoting the growth of the different types of millets because of their nutritional value. We are to lobby and discuss with the others, because it's an area we want people to embrace and get to know about, to get the conference being held in Kenya. So it is out of lobbying, it is out of the recognition of how important millet is by FAO, and being a strategic crop that is being promoted all over, that we have the millet conference here on the 31st, on the 30th, and 31st. And many ends of states are in support of this. August 31st. There is a member of parliament, a member who asked whether governors will use this as a campaign tool. This will not be used, and I don't believe it will be used as a campaign tool. Because what we are saying is that the governors just provide us with the store. She's not the one to continue distributing. we are sending SMSs with the voucher numbers to every farmer that is registered to visit the store to go and pick. And for your information, as long as you are within the data system, our data system, even if you come from Kericho, and for example, you want to pick your fertilizer from Mombasa because you have another farm in Mombasa or in Kisumu, you can easily be able to access fertilizer from any part of the country. So it will be the decision of the farmer where to pick, but we have brought in the members of the leaders of the county governments for convenience. Why aren't we using the Ngao infrastructure to provide, to give the fertilizer? This came from, I think, Karemba. The cost implications, however much I appreciate what the Ngao has done, because they really supported me in the registration of farmers and the good work they have done. Remember, they are very well spread, but we really do not have that finance. Parliament has not appropriated money for that purpose, and we would not want to operate in an area whereby we spend public finances without the authority of Parliament. But out of small resources or little resources that can be within our normal budgetary allocation, we can be able to hire some other 50 or 100 temporary staff, which we can be able to keep or post to the stores that the governors will have opened, and then they will be able to be our officers that will be reading fertilizer. Remember, the fertilizer is not free. So for that matter, the chiefs or the ND or the ACCs cannot really just go taking on delivering it all over, because it requires to have a proper support system of technology system for it to operate. You must be having proper network. And I think I answered it together with the gentleman who asked whether we are using technology. Whatever we are doing in the distribution of fertilizer is we are leveraging on technology, and that is why we are not getting in contact with very many people. It's the farmer who gets his information and goes at a time when he wants and redeems it from anywhere. So this technology that is we are appreciating here, and what is really assisting us. I don't think the distance I've covered, or now we want to cover the distance. Mr. Sigei, this is something to do with the extension service. And I think it's important for the members to listen on this one. We are very deliberate in ensuring that the extension service, because of the key nature of the transformation it can be able to bring into this sector, we are very committed to it. What we need and what we have to do, or tell you what we have done now. If you want to know, we have different applications in place already. That if you want to know what crop to plant in your constituency, we have an application called KAMIS, the Kenya Agricultural Management Information System, where when you get into it, you key into your county, to your sub-county, to your ward. It will be able to tell you what to plant and when. We have another one called CAUP, the Kenya Agricultural Observatory Platform. It will give you the weather patterns that you expect in every ward in the whole country. So out of the 1450 ones, we've been able to reach out to all of them. So it will tell you when you expect rain. So that information is able to assist the farmers. And we are not only limited to the crop. No, it will also even tell you the kind of animals that you can be able to keep, because we are almost completing also the livestock master plan. So we have, in terms of technology, we are quite advanced, because even when the already onboarded services on the e-citizen platform are now above 1,000 from the Ministry of Agriculture. We have another 3,500, which we expect to onboard before the end of the year, because there's that commitment to offer government services online. So we want to make agriculture digital. We want this to be more appealing, and these are some of the things we do, because we also want to bring even our own youth for them to know. So the extension service will be offered online, and having serious discussions with my team on how to ensure we can have exciting strategies and methods so that we are also able to capture many people to come to our support, because the embarrassment we have gone through as a country, from begging for food, for people without going food, can only be sorted by us sitting down and discussing and taking a deliberate decision that we must all work towards making sure that the country is food and nutritional security. And it begins with us as leaders, and we have a very big responsibility for each one of us to be able to feed our own people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Minister. We have another minister queuing. So question by member for Teso North, member for Mandera South, member for Buri, and member for Suba South, including the question asked by Sigei about what you are doing to purchase the bamba harvest that is on the fields of farmers at affordable prices. You get ready to come back on Wednesday next week. We'll give you the first shot. Clerk, don't add any more questions to this minister. He'll only come to answer those that I have listed, plus Sigei's issue. We will release you, Minister, so that we let in the Minister for Labor.
Watu wa Maimahi umupo, stesheni uipendayo ya Shoro FM imekuandalia tamasha kali ya Mugithi Night Jumamosi tarehe 5 Agosti mwaka huu, hapo VIP Nest Lounge Maimahi. Karabi na bendi yake wataporomosha burudani kabambe kuanzia saa 2 za usiku hadi che. Ma-MC wetu wa nguvu, Mwana Mwende, Joseph Njenga na makoha wa vioja mahakamani wamewatayarishia vichekesho kemkema na zawadi kocho kocho za kushindaniwa. Mafansu wa Naivasha na Maimahiu mnaombwa kujitokeza, tujumuike pamoja kupiga sherehe. Hii itakuwa kali sana.
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear.
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly. And 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin, Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.